Hey guys, welcome back to Bung's Custom Bikes. Let's build some exhaust. So, the chopper's pretty much done. If you can see, it's got our fancy cool shark decals. I'll show you a lot more of it when I actually do the walk around on the bike. But this week we're going to focus on putting the exhaust together. And that's the last thing it needs. So, what we're going to do is we're going to use just some mild steel. I don't feel like dealing with stainless this time. And we're just going to weld it up. And I'm going to kind of walk through the process of how to really fit your exhaust up and get it how you want it. But we'll start off with what we need. So specifically for the Shovelhead, you need some flanges. These come from TC Bros. It's just one kind of pipe with flange. Get it focus. And it's got a flange on each end. So you chop it whatever length you need for each end, and you've got a flange. And that'll bolt right up to the motor. And then at the other end, we've got our exhaust tip. So I got this from Twisted Choppers, I think. And it is a collector, an 1 3/4 collector for 2 separate pipes that come down into this massive 3-inch dump with the side, cut out. It does come with baffles. I don't know if you can see the baffles in there. It does come with baffles, but they are removable. And of course, we're going to take them out. So, without further ado, let's get to getting. So anytime I build an exhaust, I kind of do it in one real way. I follow the same method. And that's, the first thing I do is I want to figure out where am I going to stop? Like, where is it going to end? And in this case, they kind of design a transmission for the exhaust. So the tailpiece is going to end up like right there. So kind of right there. So this rear cylinder is going to be real easy. It's just going to come out, over, and down to the collector. That front cylinder is going to be a little more difficult just due to the vicinity of our oil lines right underneath the exhaust port and getting it underneath the carburetor and over without dumping too much heat onto the carburetor. But it shouldn't be too bad. So what we've got is, like I said, we've got the exhaust, the tip, and then we've got a couple of these. Whoa! We've got a couple of these mandrel bends. And I like these because it gives you a good section of straight, and then it also gives you 180 degrees of bend. So you can cut it at whichever angle you need to make your turns and your radii? I don't know. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the flange, the exhaust flange. I'm going to get these cut, and we'll start on this back cylinder first. I think is where we're going to run the first exhaust. Let's get on it. So our first cut was the 2 flanges, and I didn't really measure, I didn't really worry about angles or anything like that. I just wanted to get 2 flanges, because then we can toss these up here and see where we need to actually start working off of. So we'll throw this flange on and tighten it down. And of course, if you're working on a Shovelhead, yours may be a little different. The earlier model Shovelheads came with the 1-bolt exhaust flange, whereas the newer models came with the 3-bolt. So just keep in mind which one you have when you order pieces. But you see, we got the little stub sticking out. Let me get you a little closer. Get the kick pedal out of the way. There we go. So you see, we get the little stub sticking out. So now I know that I want this to live right about there. So now we just got to figure out how are we going to get this to there. And I mean, it's not too terribly difficult. We'll cut some right angles, and we'll probably take a right angle off that, over, and then in. That's going to be a real short one. So it kind of looks like a jumbled mess, but I've got the straight pipe here, and then I've got these 2 90s that I cut out. Each one, does 90 degrees to make a full 180. So I put one on the heel, and that's obviously going to be, going to the collector. And then the cool thing about 90-degree pieces is you can kind of move them in any direction you need. So like in this instance, we're going to kind of, swivel it around until we meet this. And this one's a little bit shorter, so we'll put this one back in here. clunk, and then we'll meet our angle. So I've got the collector set up here on just the transmission jack, and that'll kind of hold it in the position we want it so that we can actually mock up our exhaust. So, and then once you kind of get it where you want, you'll want to take like a Sharpie and just kind of make lines so that way you know where to put it back together again. So I like that. So now I'm just going to get my Sharpie and we'll go ahead and mark it and get it where we want it. So after a bit of trial and error, I'm kind of going with this design. It's going to kind of go from there and then kind of loop back up and around to the collector here. And that extra length will kind of make up for the difference that it's going to go from the front cylinder. You kind of want equal length exhaust collectors, but it's not necessary. Some people say that it's better, some people say that it doesn't, some say it helps with scavenging, some say it doesn't. I don't know. I just kind of want this to look cool, so that's really what I'm focusing on. But let's see if I can cut another little 90 to fit in there. I'm thinking that it should be just fine. Yeah, I'm thinking that'll work. Okay, so I kind of got all the pieces where I want them. And then what I did was I had Mrs. Bunker come in here and help me out. And she took the Sharpie and she basically just made lines. That way I can kind of connect them all again and then tack them. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to tack it all into place and then we'll move to the front cylinder. It's a little ghetto fabulous right now, but there's our first pipe. Again, it's just tack welded. It's not supposed to look pretty just yet. We're going to add more to it, and then, we're going to run the other side, and it'll get a lot better looking when we do that. So, we threw a couple more tacks on it just to kind of hold it up so it'll be a little more sturdy. As you can see, it's still a little flimsy. And again, that's just because it's tack. That'll make it easy to take apart if we need to. Hopefully we don't need to. But, just in case. Let's move to the front cylinder. I'll move the camera a little bit. And I know the welder's loud over there, but let's get to working on the front cylinder. So this front cylinder is going to be tricky because you can see the exhaust flange is here and my oil lines are here. So it's going to be difficult. I'm thinking it might almost be better to come around the frame rail and then over. That would be kind of cool. It's going to be hard to take on and off though. So let's just mess with it again. So you can barely see the flange because I cut pretty much everything off of it. The only way I'm going to be able to get this to work is to pretty much come off a 90, right immediately off of that exhaust flange. So that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to come out, wrap around, and then over. And then in. So it should be a relatively straightforward cut. But you know how it goes. Day 2 of working on the exhaust. Had to take a little break because I kind of got to working later in the night yesterday, and Mrs. Munga needed some help with the baby. So we're back at it. As you see, I tacked this 90 degree onto the flange. I know I normally said that I don't like to tack things until after it's all in place, but I know that 90 has to be right there. So we're just going to call that an extension of the flange. The reason it has to be there is because of the oil lines. I just kind of you know, I wanted that oil tank there, and so I have to work around it. It is what it is. I could have put the oil tank somewhere else, but again, that's where I want it, so we'll work with it. But I've got that 90 coming off, and then I've got another 90 sitting here that I already cut, and it's just gonna kind of come off of here. And then we just need our last, I'm gonna get my arm out of the way. Then we just need our last 90 to come out of the collector and meet up with that. So let's cut one more 90 and see what we can do. So you can see I got this 90, this long 90 coming out, and happily enough, it points right at that. So we're just gonna kind of get this mocked up and mark where we wanna cut it. So we'll get that squared off there, lift it up a little bit, and then we'll get our Sharpie and mark that and cut it. So we got a little 90 cut, and we'll just kind of mate them up. Get that there. And then kind of wiggle this one into where we want it. And there you have it. Now we'll just tack those in, and then we should be done with all of our tacks. We'll pull the full system off and actually weld it up. So let me get the welder running. So it's all tacked up. You know, the tacks aren't pretty, but they're holding it in place for now. After we unbolt it, so we're gonna unbolt it, take it off, and then we'll throw it up in the clamp, get it actually finish welded, clean up the welds, do whatever we need to do. We're gonna let it cool down, and then I'm gonna wrap it. You always kind of want to wrap if you use mild steel, you do want to wrap it. It helps protect the steel from oxygen while it's hot, which will rust it. But also, I mean, it just looks good. Mild steel doesn't get those nice pretty colors that stainless gets. As you can see, I mean, you get a little bit of the discoloring, but it's just not those nice blues and purples and hay browns that you get from stainless steel. So we're gonna wrap it. I think it'll help tie this bike in together too, because the mild steel is not shiny chrome like the rest of the motorcycle is. But that's neither here nor there. When you're doing your build, you can do whatever you want with it. I want to wrap mine. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to wrap this. So I went ahead and just cleaned up all the welds with the wire brush on the grinder. Let's just get the dirt and debris out of it that we don't want. So we're going to wrap it with just this fiberglass exhaust wrap. It's nothing special. It's black. I'm kind of on the fence if I want to do black or white, so I might change my mind. But you ask why I'm wearing gloves. This stuff is so itchy. If you've ever worked with like fiberglass insulation, like for an attic, it's kind of similar because it is. It's just fiberglass strands. But when we go to wrap it, I mean, there's kind of a technique, kind of not really. It doesn't really matter if you go clockwise, counterclockwise. I like to go counterclockwise. That's just me. But whenever you're doing exhaust, it's kind of two pieces in one. You got to figure out how you're going to manage the split. And all you're really going to do is you're going to choose one collector to wrap first, and that's what you're going to do. So in this case, I'm going to wrap the long one first. So I'll start right here at the joint, wrap the long one all the way up to the flange, and then I'll come back and I'll start all the way down here at the tip, wrap this whole wide section, and then when I get to the split, I'm going to keep going, except over onto the rear cylinder collector. So you go from this real wide thing, and then you kind of have to just make that work in there, and then get onto that and go. So it's almost like you're leaving the front cylinder out, because you've already wrapped that. So it is two separate wraps, but we're going to make it look like it's kind of one. So there's the first collector done. Whenever you finish, you've got these metal, I just call them zip ties, so they essentially are, but they're made out of metal, and they'll hold your, I already got it on me. They'll hold your wraps in place, because obviously a real zip tie would melt. The kit comes with like 6 of these, so you can double them up at the top if you want. I normally do, just to keep the top from unraveling, but you don't have to. You do want to keep in mind, however, where your flange bolt is going to be, because if you got this big head for the zip tie there, it's going to be in the way. So we'll do one there, and then I'll toss another one on. And then there's a special tool you can use to really tighten these down, and it goes onto your socket wrench, and it's this right here. And see, it's just it's got this little slit in it, and the end of the tie fits in there, and then you just twist it down, and it really tightens it up. I like them. All right. So for the other side, we're going to clamp this collector, and then we're just going to start at the tip and wrap it, wrap it all the way up, and do the same thing. Fairly simple. So the last thing I want to do is I want to put one on the end here, because no matter what, the end always ends up coming unraveled. So we're going to put one of these little zippy ties on the end. Yeah, I mean, no matter how tight you wrap it, for whatever reason, the end always comes undone. Make sure we actually get it on the wrap. There we go. All right, and then we'll just tighten it down with that little tool. And there you have it. Let's get it on the bike. And there you have it. Custom exhaust on a custom chopper. I think it looks pretty good with the black wrap. But I'm not going to start it, because y'all are going to have to wait for the reveal video for that. But anyways, sorry I'm so shaky, I'm sweaty. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope it was somewhat educational. If not, I hope you enjoy watching me weld and wrap pipes. Building exhaust isn't my favorite thing to do, but you know, it's one of those necessary evil type things. It's got to get done. So we do it. But stay tuned for the next video. It's going to be the final reveal of the chopper, because she is officially done. And stay riding, friends.